If you are interested in becoming a board game designer, or even if you've been designing for a while, here are 10 things I believe every designer should have. Number 1, a playtesting journal. If you don't know what playtesting is, it's when you have others play a prototype of your game and then gather feedback from them. I use one journal for all of my playtesting sessions. A few years ago, I had one journal for each game, but I found that it's easier to keep all of my playtesting notes in one place. I write which game I'm testing that session at the top of the page, as well as the date, what I will be focusing on testing this session. Maybe I want to focus on the pacing or the interaction between players, the names of the playtesters. It's good to keep track of who has playtested your games so you can thank them in the rulebook if the game gets published. You also want to write down the start and end times of the game so you can see the average duration of your game, which is important info to have since publishers will ask for that, or you will want to include that in your Kickstarter if you plan on self-publishing. And be sure to write down your observations during the playtest, and then the playtester's feedback at the end. Be sure to write down everything, even things you don't agree with. To learn more about playtesting, be sure to watch my video, Playtesting Board Games 101. Number 2, an app on your phone or a small notebook to carry with you to jot down any new ideas wherever you are. You never know when inspiration will strike. And rather than hoping you will remember your idea when you get home, install an app on your phone. I use the Notes app, or carry a small notebook with you and write down any new ideas that come to you no matter where you are. Number 3, a system to keep track of your games. I use Google Drive to keep track of all of my games. So my system is jotting down an idea in my Notes app, then deciding if it's worth pursuing. If I think it has potential, I'll make a new folder in my Google Drive and quickly create a document for the game, using a template I use for my games, which I will link in the description of the video. I don't need to have all this info right now, but I will usually write out a general idea of the gameplay and components, as well as my thoughts, copy and paste it from my Notes app at the bottom of the document. This is also where I will keep my playtesting notes that I eventually will transcribe from my playtesting journal. Another good thing to have in your Google Drive is a spreadsheet to keep track of who you have pitched your games to. If you're just starting out, this might not be the most useful thing yet, but eventually it is good to keep track of this so you don't pitch a game to a publisher who already said no. Awkward. Number 4, a group to playtest with, either online or in person. I know it can be tough finding people to play games with, and even harder to find people to playtest prototypes with, but groups are out there. You just need to find them. And I can't stress how important it is to surround yourself with others who are also interested in creating board games. Working in isolation is tough and will stunt your growth as a designer. Being around others who match your energy for designing board games will accelerate your progress and keep you energized and inspired. Some of the best ways to connect with other designers and playtesters is through meetup.com. If a playtesting group doesn't exist, consider starting one yourself. Local board game stores or cafes might have designer meetups, and if they don't, you can ask them to start one. Facebook neighborhood groups, online playtesting groups like the Seattle Tabletop Game Designers group on Discord. You don't need to be in Seattle to join. I'll link to their Discord channel in the description of the video. Local board game conventions will usually have a playtesting area. Connect with others there and maybe start a group through those connections. Number 5, an organized and accessible workspace. You don't need to have a dedicated workspace. It can be multi-purpose, like how my dining room table is also my board game design area, but you do need to have a space to create your games, and it needs to be organized and easily accessible. You need to lower as many barriers as possible to get you designing games. And if working on your games is a hassle to first clean off a space for yourself and then try to find your supplies, you are more likely to not want to work on your games, and if you do, it won't be the most enjoyable experience. I made an entire video about how to create better habits and environments called Atomic Habits of Board Game Designers, and you should definitely check that out. Number 6, prototyping supplies. Building up a good supply of prototyping materials will help you make your games much faster. It is very nice not having to run out to the store each time you want to put a prototype together. You don't need to break the bank here. You can find cheap supplies at your local dollar store, thrift stores, Amazon, or pillage any old games you don't play anymore. Watch my video, 10 tips for prototyping board games, to see my own supply and what materials I suggest every designer should have on hand. Number 7, large clear plastic bags to keep prototypes in. You will likely be working on more than one game at a time, so it is good to keep your prototypes organized and also easily transportable so you can grab them and go to your playtesting groups. Keeping your games in clear bags will make it easy to identify which game is which. You can also write the working title of the game on the bag, and I like to also write when I started working on the game, and will eventually add when I archive the game if it didn't work out, or when the game got picked up by by a publisher. Your prototypes will take up much less space if they are kept in bags rather than boxes. And this is helpful if you're transporting multiple games at a time, and also so you don't fill up your archive too quickly. Speaking of archives, number 8 is a box for archived games. One of the most important things to know is that most of the games you design won't work out. Either you don't get the positive feedback you were looking for over multiple playtests, or maybe you discover the game already exists. But you will definitely need a place to throw any prototypes that didn't work out. I like to keep these as a record, but also in the off chance I decide to revive one, I can easily grab it from my archive. But the archive is also for games that do work out, and it's good to keep those materials so you can share a design diary after the game is published and include photos of the early prototypes. Definitely keep this box easily accessible so you can just toss your games in there and they don't pile up because the box is hidden behind a bunch of other stuff in your basement. Or like me, I keep my box up high on a shelf and I need to take my stepladder out to reach it, so I'm a bit behind in putting old games in there because I can't be bothered to get the ladder out. So when I get back to Vancouver in a few days, I will be moving my archive box down to make it much more accessible. Number 9, access to board games to play and get inspired by. Playing a variety of published board games is one of the best ways to stay inspired as a designer. Seeing all of the cool and innovative games that others have created gets me pumped up to create something also on that level. One of the best ways to play games is to join a gaming group on meetup.com or play games with friends or strangers online on Board Game Arena. I'll link to that as well below. I joined a weekly board gaming group and have been playing at least one new game each week, and it has been really great to be regularly exposed to new games and mechanics, and also to stay in the loop of what games players are enjoying lately. Watch my video 21 board games every designer should play, where I go through a diverse range of games that showcase the most popular mechanics and themes all designers should know about. And finally, number 10, a healthy sense of optimism with a sprinkle of delusion. There's a lot of rejection and failure in this industry, especially for independent board game designers. It's incredibly difficult to do this full time or to make any money at all. So it's absolutely imperative that you have a deep love for board games and the creative process. If a game you make completely falls apart when you playtest it, it's totally okay and understandable to feel discouraged and sad. But if you let that consume you and stop you from trying again, being a board game designer will be pretty tough for you. Your ability to spring back up with a new idea and feel that spark of joy every time you have a new idea, and even say to yourself,
"This might be the best board game ever invented,"
almost every time you have a new idea, will be a huge asset to you as a designer. I think my possibly delusional sense of optimism has greatly helped push me forward as a designer, because no matter how badly one of my games fails, I can always feel that excitement and anticipation of what I might create next. And there you have it, my list of 10 things every board game designer needs. What do you think about this list? Did I miss anything? If so, please add it in the comments below. Also, I'm at the end of a 7-week trip through Guatemala and will be coming back to Canada in a few days. I'm currently in Guatemala City. Here is my view. When I get back home, I plan on ramping up my content, so be ready for more frequent uploads. And if there's a topic you want me to cover, be sure to add it in the comments below. Also, my party game, Blob Party, will be releasing in a couple weeks in mid-July 2023. So be sure to pre-order your copy on the WizKids store, and I'll link to that as well. I hope this video was helpful for you and that you feel energized about your journey as a board game designer. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on social media at Pamela's Game Design, and I'll see you in the next video.